Just thinking about becoming self-employed? In this video, I run you through all the steps you need to set yourself up ready to go. Every day, our business accountancy helps people become self-employed and go on their journey with them to help them along. And I'm going to use that experience in this video to run you through the key things you need to know when you're becoming self-employed. So the first thing to talk about is the fact that the decision to become self-employed isn't sort of an arbitrary thing. You decide, one day you just decide, okay, I am going to be self-employed. So for me, many years ago, when I was about 18, I decided, okay, I'm going to go and do something on the side as a self-employed sort of hustle, as they're now known. I'll go and do that. And that's the first thing, is making that decision to do it. And as I mentioned there, it's quite normal and very modern these days to have something else going on alongside your other job. So you can be self-employed and do other things. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing decision. Quite often it is an all or nothing decision, but we see more and more now in the modern times that somebody will start something on the side, and then when it's big enough to support their full-time job, they jack the full-time job in and get on with doing this thing that they love doing. So that's the first thing, make the decision. Then the next step is to tell the tax man. Now this is really important. He used to give you a time scale of about 3 months that you had to register and tell him about it, but now it's as soon as possible. So it's really quite straightforward, and in a moment I'm going to show you exactly what the screen looks like and how you do that. But the main thing that you need to do is tell him, and it's all done via an online form. There is a way, as you'll see, to do a manual paper form, but you still need to go online to get it. So I'd suggest to everybody use the online process. What's really important about this process, if you get it right, is that it registers you for both a tax return, so you get a UTR number as a unique tax reference, and you'll need that for lots of different things. As I'm recording this video, we're right in the middle of the coronavirus lockdown, and as a result, a lot of people now are scrambling around trying to find the UTR to claim grants. So it's a very important piece of information that you'll need forevermore. It's your unique identifier with the revenue. The other thing that's really important is to get yourself registered for what they call Class 2 National Insurance. Now this national insurance goes towards many benefits, but the main thing with it is that you're on the system for pensions and benefits and all these other things, because what we're finding now is historically the system was done differently to it is now with national insurance. And there were people going back 30 odd years that still aren't on the revenue system as self-employed. So it's a really, really important piece. So do follow the online process I'm about to show you now. So this is the main page that you'll see, and as you can see here, there's a 4-step process from the revenue's point of view of checking that everything's okay. The first one is to make sure that self-employment's right for you, and this talks a little bit about making sure that you're actually comfy. You are self-employed as a true self-employed person. You're not actually pseudo-employed, and that's really important for things like holiday pay. Obviously, you don't get any of these employment benefits when you're self-employed, so just make sure that is correctly what you're going to be doing. So, for example, if you're thinking of setting yourself up as a barber tomorrow, you are a self-employed barber. You carry all the risks and rewards of doing that. The next step is to choose what trade name you trade under. Now, we talk to clients a lot about this. People get overly concerned, and it's important to have an idea, both from a business point of view. You want to have a name and a brand, and make sure, do your due diligence, make sure you've typed it in Google and that other results don't come up. We've seen it a few times where people have traded under other names by mistake, so definitely just check that out, that nobody else is doing exactly what you want to do. But ultimately, it's not that important, because at a later date, you can change it. As far as the tax man's concerned, from a tax registration point of view, you're you. It's you get the unique tax reference. So if you then decide to go and do something different, completely different name, it doesn't matter. You're going to use the same number. You just fill out a new set of pages in your tax return each year with the different details on. So, but for now, I think it's a good stage to decide what you're going to do and what you're going to trade as. And there is a little link there that shows you some guidance on the use of names, what you can and can't do. The records bit we're going to come back to in a minute, but it's very important to keep the right amount of records. You're going to need a record of what you're getting in and what you're spending out, and that's key. With limited companies, it can be more complicated. But for you as a sole trader right now, ins and outs, just think ins and outs all the time. But we will come back to that in a minute. So then step 4, which is the important bit and really why we're here, and that is to register for a tax return and your national insurance. As you can see, there is a link there, so that if you haven't got a national insurance number because you've come into the country or something similar, you can go and do that separately on there. But the main bit we're here for is that bottom link. So you've done the whole page to get to the near this bottom link, and that's register for self-assessment. And that's the box you're going to need to go to. You can see a little bit further down, there's mention of VAT. But for now, don't worry about VAT. We'll talk about a little bit at the end of the video about that. But the important thing for now is you just need a tax return. So click on this link and it takes you to this screen. And there's a few options on here, because what they don't want you doing is re-registering if you've already registered a while ago. So if you've already got a unique tax reference, a UTR, there's one box. If you haven't, there's another link. So the piece I'm highlighting here is the bit you want. If you're fresh, you're new, you haven't sent a tax return before, is this bit. If you have sent one, there's a link for you as well to click that, and it takes you through to a different form, because sometimes it might have gone inactive or it's been so long, but you're still on the system somewhere. So there's a way of reactivating that. And then you can see here, this is the actual bit you need, the register online link. So you click there and it takes you through to another form. And this is where we start, by entering your email address. Now, I'm not going to do the process here because I'm going to need to enter a lot of personal details, and guess what? I'm already registered. So, but for you, you would follow the boxes and go through the stages. They're not too complicated. And the main thing with that is it's going to set you up with an online account. Now, what's so important about that account is that if you're going to be doing your own tax return, you're not going to be using an accountant. That's your entry. That's the way you get on and do those tax returns. And it houses another load of information as well for you in there. So definitely sort that out. What you will see is you'll get an actual paper letter that comes through to you in around the next 10 working days. If you are watching this during the middle of the coronavirus lockdown, who knows how long that's going to take. But generally, yeah, the next 10 sort of days, it appears on paper with a little number that you'll need as an activation code. And you'll be prompted for that the first time you sign in, and that gets you going, and then you've got an online account and you're ready to go. And that's it as far as the taxman's concerned. But what we've then got is some of the questions we talked about there. There's a couple of key points, I think. So you've sorted the taxman out, you're now registered, that will happen, you'll get a letter through, it will contain your unique tax reference as well. Keep that safe because you'll need it, especially if you then decide later that you're going to work with an accountant, they'll need that number. So then we mentioned records. Now, records are important right now. So you need to know your ins and your outs. The best way to keep that is digitally. Now, that can be a spreadsheet, and you can literally list what came in and what came out. And that would be enough. If you wanted to prepare your tax return, you've got some records, keep the receipts, you've got them all backed up into the spreadsheet so you know the totals that you're going to go and put on the tax return. Or if you give it to an accountant, they're going to want to know the breakdown as well and see your receipts and just see what you've got where and make sure that it's all in the right boxes. So, and more importantly, if an accountant's involved, the thing they're going to want to know is, what are you missing? What is it that you don't know? Are there other tax allowances that are possible? Over my shoulder here, there's 22,000 pages of tax law, and that's what accountants do, is make sure that you're not missing out because you don't know this and they do. So having a spreadsheet records is a great start. Now, the other reason digital records are important is because making tax digital. Now, if you Googled that, if you stuck it in YouTube, you'd see making tax digital has been talked a lot about over the last couple of years. And the reason that is there was going to be a massive change from April 20, where the smallest of businesses were going to have to report quarterly to HMRC in a digital format on their ins and their outs, basically. Now, this got pushed back mainly because of Brexit and also through lobbying through different parties and accountancy bodies. I mean, as you can imagine, a lot of accountants said this is incredibly difficult for a lot of our clients. A lot of my clients would have struggled to do that. So they've delayed it, but it hasn't gone away. They've just said at least till April 2022 that it's been delayed. So we have got a bit of time to play with it, but you're going to need to be in a position eventually where you do it. Where we have seen making tax digital come in is where VAT is concerned. And what they have to do, VAT people have to do, is record their transactions. So dates, times, names, amounts and things like that in the digital format. So spreadsheets are currently still okay. But where eventually I think we'll get to is you're going to need some sort of accounting software to keep it all in and submit it. So VAT registered businesses need this software to submit the details to revenue anyway. So what I would recommend checking out, if you're serious about this, is Xero, QuickBooks, Free Agent, these types of cloud software. And we'll probably do another video running you through the pros and cons as it stands at the moment with where we are. But for now, just be aware they're there. They do take a bit of setup and a bit of practice to make them work, but they're really quite good. And if you're an ambitious owner and want to know where you are with your figures, I think they're absolutely critical. But ultimately, a good old spreadsheet and a list of ins and outs will work for you. Now, one of the practical points I want to touch on briefly is bank accounts. So there's been a lot, again, during this lockdown with bounce back loans that have appeared. What we have found is there's a lot of people who have businesses who are sole traders that don't actually use the business bank accounts. They use personal ones because there's no fee and there's no fee to pay money into them, all that kind of stuff. Now, yes, there are fees associated with business bank accounts, but they're tax deductible for one. And when you do need lending or you do need to approach your bank for a bounce back loan or something similar, in this particular case, no one could have known this was coming, but it's highlighted the issue. It's far easier to speak to a business manager and get that done through the right processes. So you should have a business bank account, or at minimum, a separate bank account to account for your ins and outs of your business. The reason you want that is practically because if Revenue and Customs want to inspect your affairs, you can just demonstrate, here's my bank account, it's all under lovely control, here's my records. Even better if it's in the cloud, you can just give them the iPad and then you can show them. And there's no digging into other things that are going on. So it's a really good way to, and best practice, just to keep control of everything. And if you're working with an accountant, they will love you for it. And then finally, just a little point to get you going. There's two really important things, I think, that get missed sometimes when we're talking about tax registration and all these important things and tax deductions. And that's the practical operational side of the business in terms of, do you need insurance? Now, I'm not an insurance advisor, I can't tell you, but it should be top of your list to figure out, because as business people, as a sole trader, you are liable for any issues that you encounter. So definitely check out a good broker. The internet's great, but brokers will do a better job of finding you the right deal and the right cover. And then finally, the most important one, making sure you get paid. You're going to need to have some sort of invoice template, or if you're going to use eBay, Shopify, these kind of things, obviously it's handled a lot for you with payment systems, but you need to decide, are you going to use something like an iZettle card machine? They're a nice cheap way to do that with a digital record of who pays you. Or if you're professional services and you're going to be invoicing, then you probably need to create an invoice template. Now, if you're using a cloud accounting software like Xero or QuickBooks, guess what? It's built in. So you just fill in the boxes and you can email straight from the system, and it's fantastic. And for that reason alone, it's an amazing tool, especially if you're in the trade, for example, and you don't want to be doing all your invoicing on a Saturday night. You can literally come out of the job, jump in the van, do it, email, off you go, and it's a massive time saver, and you get paid quicker as a result. Studies show you get paid quicker if you've got a payment system like that. So definitely get yourself set up with something that can mean you can quickly invoice. But ultimately, any sort of document on your computer with all the key details like your name, your address, and the breakdown of all the services, everything like that is important. You can check out a blog on our website, actually, where we're talking a bit more detail about what sort of things would be good for an invoice, and I'm sure there'll be a video in the future on that. So, and that's it. That's the practical point. So if you've enjoyed this video, please do make sure to click the subscribe button below, tell your friends, share it in your network, and I'll see you on the next one.